Hello, and welcome to this heartfulness session titled The Thought Experiment. This module is designed to be presented to senior leaders of a corporate organization. Many a times, senior leaders of an organization get together at the end of the year, away from office, to discuss the strategy for the next year and so on. And this module may be used to introduce the idea or the practice of heartfulness to the leaders in such a setting. It is not intended to introduce them to the entirety of the heartfulness practice or to make them abhyasis. The goal is just to introduce the practice of heartfulness and what it can do to people working in corporates and how it is relevant to the employees of their organization. To start the session, put up this quote, let the people absorb it. You might want to ask if they know whose quote this is. These are the words of a person who was considered to be the greatest man alive during his time. And about 1500 years after he passed away, there are more than 1 billion people in the world who follow his teachings. These are the words of Gautam Buddha. So this brings us to the question, what is the nature of our mind? How does it work? Thoughts do arise in the mind, but why is it that in a given situation, a particular thought arises and not some other thought? Because thoughts drive action. And perhaps if I had different thoughts coming up in my mind, perhaps my actions would have been different. In today's world, given that we are mind workers, our mind is so central to everything that we do and we become. So the training of the mind is of central importance. Does it require training? Is there a way to train the mind? So how is it we go about training the mind? That is what this session is about. So before we start giving answers to the questions that we've raised, let's invite them to an experiment. This is where the placebo meditation comes in, with a slight difference. We're not asking them to try meditation by themselves. Instead, we are inviting them to do an experiment with themselves to find out what is the state of their mind at this time. Is their mind regulated? Are they the master of their thoughts? Does their mind wander? Ask them to close their eyes, settle down, sit comfortably, and pick any thought of their choice and try to hold on to that thought for a period of time until you speak again. Let 3 minutes, 4 minutes go by, and then you can ask them to close the session. Observe how these 3 or 4 minutes has been. Ask them to open their eyes and share their experience, whether they were able to hold on to that one thought of their choice or whether the mind tended to wander. Ask them what the experience has been. It could be by a show of hands, or you could use a technology tool called Menti Survey, where each one can use their smartphone to provide their feedback, and the collective feedback will be displayed on the screen in the form of a bar chart. It is the usual experience in such sessions that when they try to hold on to one thought, the mind is all over the place, and the typical feedback will be that their minds were wandering. So once you get your feedback, you might want to put up the slide just to evoke some humor, saying that it is a normal state of human affairs that we are physically present and involved with the work, but many times our mind tends to wander. The best comes out in us when all our attention, our thought, our mind, our body, everything is completely engrossed and involved in the work and action that we're doing. Now, when the mind wanders off, that leads to inefficiency. At this point, you might want to ask the audience a question. Now, All of you are fairly senior leaders in the organization. We can say that you've accomplished a lot and achieved a lot. Now, having achieved all this and having risen to the positions that we hold today, is it not funny that when we are asked to hold on to one thought for even a matter of 3 or 4 minutes, we're struggling to do so? The question that we can ask is, if we are able to regulate our minds so that we can effortlessly focus and our mind is trained to remain naturally at a state of rest and focused upon whatever is it that we are trying to do at that time, how much more effective we can be? Would it not increase our effectiveness and our performance? And that is the possibility of achieving greater heights. So if our mind is wandering all over, then how do we get work done? Because we are getting work done all the time. Let's explore the answers to this question. When we take up a task, it could be something that we are deeply interested in. It might be playing sports, it might be reading a book, listening to music, or picking up an activity in office which I'm deeply interested in doing, which I'm passionate about. In such cases, you will find that your mind naturally gravitates towards that activity and you're completely engrossed in executing that activity. You do not need help. You're naturally focused on the task at hand. But then there are other tasks in which we have no interest, we're not passionate about, and yet we do need to execute those actions as well. Now, when we work on things or activities in which we are not interested, the mind tends to wander. It does not stay focused. It tends to move on to greener postures, and we have to bring it back, or we have to apply pressure on ourselves for it to remain focused. So in summary, there are things which we're interested, where we naturally, our mind is focused. But whenever we're called on to do activities which we dislike, we have to apply pressure on ourselves in order to get the work done. Let me narrate a story. I came back from office a few days back. I parked my car, I switched off the engine and took my key out. Now this particular car, it has a feature wherein when I switch off the engine and take my ignition key out, the side mirrors automatically closes up. It folds back. Now this day, when I shut down the engine and took my key out, my right mirror was struggling to close back. The motor was still running and it would not fold back. I tried several things that did not work. I let it go and the motor kept running. When I came back the next morning, the motor was still running. I did not do anything that day and it was running all day and night again. On the second day, it was running. On the third day, I could see that the motor was struggling because it had been running continuously for 72 hours then. After 4 or 5 days, the noise increased to such levels that I had to take it to a mechanic, and he disconnected the motor in a minute. And on further diagnosis, reported to me that the motor has been burnt out. Now, I believe this is what happens to ourselves when we work under pressure. Trying to do those actions which we don't have a natural inclination for, or we don't have an interest, and we apply pressure, we apply force on ourselves to get the work done. Now, continued application of pressure leads to stress, and continued application of stress leads to burnout. It is a fact today that in the corporates, employees are experiencing unprecedented levels of stress and burnout. I'll let you absorb the metrics in front of you, but these numbers are telling. So what is the relevance of heartfulness as a practice in corporates today? Heartfulness is an experiential practice which focuses on the individual human being and brings about holistic change within themselves. By working at the individual level in a holistic manner, it elevates their abilities to a point where they're able to better deal with the environment and deal with stress, burnout, and actually much more. So, how does heartfulness deal with a human being? For this, let's go down a level and look at what are the dimensions of a human being. We talk about 4 dimensions here: the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spirit. Now, heartfulness offers a technique for each of these 4 dimensions. It offers a relaxation technique to help the body relax. And the benefits of practicing the relaxation technique is that it can help you relax, make you feel calm and settled in your body and mind. When you practice meditation, which is how it helps develop focus, it brings the mind to a state of stillness and at rest. And because of this, we gain more clarity. The mental chatter goes down and we're able to concentrate better, resulting in higher efficiency and productivity. These are the benefits of meditation. But to bring about inner change in the individual in a holistic manner, we have to go deeper. Heartfulness offers a technique called cleaning, which helps in rejuvenating us inside out. It helps us deal with and manage our emotions. When we go through the actions of the day, there are things which we like to do and there are things which we don't like to do. Likes and dislikes come into play. And the emotions that comes into play leaves a lot of impressions or effect on our inner selves. Now, cleaning is a technique which helps us remove those impressions at the end of the day. And it results in lightness, it creates inner freshness, and it leads to the development of several inner qualities which fortifies us inside out, such as tolerance, patience, and so on. And then comes the 4th technique, which we call connect. And this is where the heart comes into play. The heart is the seat of love. And that is the basis for empathy, for compassion, for kindness. It is these qualities which really keeps people together, families together, and friends together, and makes the workplace and interpersonal relationship a positive experience. So heartfulness, it brings about inner change or holistic change by working on all the 4 elements through practical, experiential techniques of relaxation, meditation, cleaning, and connect. Now let us invite them to the experience. And given that this is going to be a 60 or 90-minute session, we can tell them that they will experience relaxation and meditation. And if they're interested, we will take them further on their journey. So at the end of the experience of heartfulness meditation, we can invite their feedback in terms of how they felt. We can ask for a few people to speak up. Or you could alternatively run a Menti survey, 3 or 4 questions, and we would be able to see the collective feedback on the screens, which reaffirms their own individual experience. You might want to briefly touch upon what the Heartfulness Institute is about, who we are, our global presence, scale and size, and whom we work with. You might want to mention that by and large, we offer these programs free of charge to organizations and institutions worldwide. Now, before closing the session, let's put out some clear actions. For people who feel that this is beneficial for them, we can offer 3 different options and invite them to engage further. At the first level, which is the smallest touch point, we can introduce them to the Heartfulness app, where the relaxation technique is pre-recorded and they can use it as and whenever they feel stressed. For people who would like to explore Heartfulness further, we can offer them contact with a Heartfulness coach and trainer. Now, leaders at senior levels in corporates are used to leadership coaches and trainers and so on. So this is a concept that they will relate to. And for people who are interested, what we are required to do is to connect each person individually with a heartfulness trainer who has a corporate background and who can engage with them at a mental level, and ask them to work with each other 1 hour a week perhaps, and that session will essentially be chatting with each other, understanding how the practice is going, introduce them to the practice, and to give them a sitting once a week. And for people who would like to use heartfulness or employ heartfulness to bring about a larger change in their organization or their teams, we can offer to work with their teams as well. But let's take up a challenging task here. Let's ask them to nominate high stress teams and we will work with them. So the way this will work is that, instead of offering it across the organization, we'll only work with teams which are stressed out. It might be a team of 10, 50, 100 people on a floor, and we could have a heartfulness trainer go there once a week and do it on the floor for everybody in the team. But before we start on this, make sure that the senior leader is sponsoring this, and the project manager or the account manager or the department champion or the head is also involved and is sponsoring this initiative. Because once we start the session, ideally every member of the team should participate in heartfulness, and the department head should not be pulling a few people away, so that this becomes a corporate initiative, and this particular team is setting aside time, 1 hour a week or 2 hours, whatever it is, specifically for the heartfulness activity. If we do undertake this, then we could also offer to actually measure the impact of heartfulness both from a quantifiable as well as qualitative manner. We can offer measurements and we can submit a report at the end of 12 or 15 weeks. So this brings us to the end of the session, and we can leave them with these 3 clear actions, and we can invite them to come back to us with how they would like to take it forward. Thank you.